Dr. Langat, thank you for making time and thank you for being here. We appreciate.
Thank you. I'm also happy to be here with you today.
Okay, great. I was reading your academic story and I came across very heavy terms: chromatography, spectrography, or spectrometry. What are these terms? What are you researching?
Thank you so much. Yeah, so essentially I'm a chemist. So I am an organic chemist with a bias towards studying the chemistry of living things. So that is the chemistry of plants, fungi, the marine animals or other terrestrial animals as well. So in essence, it's about identifying the molecules that are present in living things. Therefore, to be able to know, because the best way to do that is to study a structure. I remember probably in high school or in university, some people studied organic chemistry as a topic where they were studying carbon, hydrogen, oxygen as elements that constitute these organic compounds. So in this area, you're actually putting up this information together to be able to come up with a structure of a compound. Therefore, you use these techniques. So we've got specifically two types of techniques. One is called spectroscopic analysis of organic compounds. Therefore, here we are using the electromagnetic radiation, that is the light, to interact with these compounds and therefore give information. I'll give a very simple example. UV light. So at the wavelength of about 200 to 400 nanometers, the light will be able to affect the structural composition, and therefore you are able to derive some information that you can put it together and therefore come up with the structure. Spectrometric, on the other side, is studying the total molecular weight of a compound and how the information you get from that, perhaps what we call fragmentation, also leads up to information that you can put it together to come up with a structure. So yes, those are terminologies in my area of trade. I am a researcher employed at the Royal Botanic Gardens in Kew, which is a non-departmental body of the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs of the UK government. So essentially, I'm a civil servant working in what perhaps would be a parastatal in Kenya.
Okay, interesting. So before we get there, I want to make it very simple. So assuming you are, and thank you for explaining what you do, and I know all the chemists out there, they'll understand, but assuming you are pitching what you do in the UK to your grandma or my grandma in the village, utamwambia unafanya nini in the UK?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. So the Royal Botanic Gardens in Kew is a plant and a fungal institute. So this is where anything about plants and fungi, an example of fungi is mushroom. So what we do there in Kew generally is anything concerning the plants and fungi. So that's what the institution does. So it's anything to do knowing them, that is naming them. It's anything to do with conservation, checking whether there are threats to the biodiversity, whether we could have some uses or beneficial uses of these plants, be it food, be it sources of medicine, be it sources of industrial products, amongst other things. But my own work is to use the chemical tools, that's the knowledge I have in chemistry, to assist other scientists. And I'm going to use a very simple example. Assuming you are walking around the Mau forest and you encounter a tree, and underneath this tree you've got bees which have died. So you probably be asking yourself, what has killed these bees that are found beneath that particular tree? So perhaps maybe we all know the bees will go after the pollen. So perhaps they picked some pollen within this plant, they ate it, and it killed the bees in one way or the other. So that's what they would call chemical ecology. And therefore, where I come in is to identify what killed the bees. Could there be a chemical within the pollen that was toxic to the bees? So I then use the techniques that you've seen, go after the pollen, bring it to the lab, strip the pollen into chemical components, probably do what we call guided assay, like feed part of the fractionated component of the pollen into the bees until you realize which one is killing and come up with a structure. I've got a very good article in Current Biology which is describing this particular study. But that is just a very simple way that I can put it to sum what I do on a daily basis.
Okay, great. And I know, so we will walk down your academic journey from where you are now. How did you find yourself there, etc. But growing up, did you want to be a chemist, or how did you find yourself in that area of research?
So I don't want to say much. As you said, we will discuss my academic journey. But growing up, whether I wanted to be a scientist is a very interesting question, because one decides what to be because of several factors. One, whether you are passionate about it or whether you are good in it. So I really didn't want to be a chemist. I was very good, an all-rounder in science. So very good in both maths, physics, chemistry, biology. So I was performing equally good in all the levels. I found maths to be slightly more challenging than the other science subjects. So I felt I really needed to be in the maths area, and I wanted to be challenging myself. So I studied at Egerton University, and at the point where I wanted to decide on a master's program that I wanted to do, I settled to do a maths, an MSc in maths. And the gentleman who was registering people for MSc in maths programs is the former governor for West Pokot, is it? Professor John Lonyangapo. So I went to him and told him I wanted to register for masters in maths. And he asked for my transcripts, and he told me it will be criminal if they admit me for masters in mathematics. They felt I was much stronger in chemistry. So he told me, you go to chemistry department and see whether they can give you something to do. If they can't, come back and we will admit you for maths. Therefore, I went to check whether chemistry department would admit me for MSc. And remember this, I was only using my third year transcripts. I was a fourth year student at Egerton at the time. And when I went to the coordinator for chemistry, he was elated. He said, no, they would happily take me in as an MSc student for chemistry. And that's how I ended up in the chemistry world.
Oh, okay. We'll go back all the way to in Kenya and how you found yourself in the UK for your postgrad and where you are now. But even before we go down your academic journey, I know while you are doing that, you are also mentoring some students and doing all sorts of things to support Kenyans abroad. You still, I don't know if you're still running Masomo Ugaibuni. That is where we met, actually. A very nice platform where students, particularly from Kenya, can hear stories of others daring and thriving abroad. And I know you were given this heavy title, EBS, because of the work you do supporting Kenyans in diaspora, particularly in the UK. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so firstly about Masomo Gaibuni, yes, I was the founder of the program, and we felt in the diaspora we have very good stories, including yours, and thank you for appearing in Masomo Gaibuni amongst other excellent personalities now who are scattered around the world, right from New Zealand into Asia, Europe to America. We've got very good, brilliant Kenyans. So yes, so we felt we needed to tell the stories about how the Kenyans who are out here in the scholar field who are either doing masters or PhD or even undergraduate ended here, and how they would be able to probably talk through their journeys, and then our Kenyans who are still in the country studying would then be able to use those as mentoring options. So that's why we created the Masomo Ugaibuni. I'm no longer running Masomo Ugaibuni because I'm very busy, but a lady called Dr. Chebitok in the US is taking it off me. So she's recently left South Africa for America, and she's going to be settling, and thereafter she will be carrying on with Masomo Ugaibuni. So yes, so I founded it, but now it's gone to someone else, so the inherited, if I may say.
Yes.
You've mentioned the EBS, that's the Order of the Elder of the Burning Spear, which is given by the head of state during the Jamhuri celebration. So he gives a number of awards to excelling Kenyans, including the EGH, CGH, MBS, OGW, amongst others. So I was honored. I was actually among the first Kenyans to be honored by the current president, President William Ruto. That was on the 2022 Jamhuri celebration. So I was awarded. And yes, it was as a result of different things that I do. So firstly, my contribution to global science, having published in several peer-reviewed journals with over 100 articles at a tender age, and how the research is influential, because most of the time my research tend to inform the governmental policies. And for example, I do research that mainly smallholder geared, that's working with smallholder farmers in different aspects, and how this research can be able to use to uplift them. So essentially, I was already an example of the bottom-up programs that the current government is advocating, working with pyrethrum farmers, working with farmers in Meru to create a new cash crop on Croton megalocarpus, which is called Mukindori among the Kikuyus, or Kelelwet among the Kalenjins. So we're setting up a new industrial crop, and I was spearheading that program, and also contributing heavily towards setting up that beta plan, which is used to govern the country, pushing heavily on recognition of the diaspora. So we were for a long time been advocating for the diaspora to be mainstreamed in governance in the country and also in politics. And the best way to mainstream the diaspora in the governance was to push for three things to happen. That is, the welfare of the people in the diaspora to be taken up by the government. Also, the allowing or giving space to the Kenyans in the diaspora to contribute towards the socio-economic development of the country. And finally, yes, as I said, to incorporate the diaspora in governance and political involvement, e.g., participating in elections. So we pushed with colleagues to have this, and luckily the current government were positive, and we have the State Department for Diaspora Affairs. So this is the first time it was created. So I was one of the heavy agitators for that to happen, and worked on the text that helped found the department. So that's in a nutshell. So my contribution to science, and also pushing towards the welfare of the Kenyans in the diaspora and using them to improve the economy of the country, contributed to my award.
Okay, and congratulations for that, and at your age, like you mentioned, so it's really commendable. And also it's so commendable because I think you could be using your time to do all other personal stuff, but you are intentional about seeing opportunities to loop in Kenyans, especially in diaspora. Many of them want to be involved in politics and whatever is going on in the country. So it's really nice that you and your team are looking for ways to involve Kenyans in diaspora in the things happening in Kenya. So well done on that.
Thank you.
Let's go back to before your current role. So actually, are you supervising students? Are you involved in any teaching role?
Oh, yes. So I'm a full-time employee of the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew, which, as I said, is part of DEFRA, part of government. I've been in Kew Gardens, as it's called, from July 2018. And my work at Kew Gardens means that I get to collaborate with institutions of higher learning, that's universities, and also SMEs and government bodies, amongst others, because Kew Gardens is more like a global body. We do research globally, so we are not just doing research in the UK. And as I said, we would really be geared towards doing research that should inform policy, change the way things are being done around the world. So therefore, that gives me an opportunity to work with different collaborators in different countries. So first, in the UK, I teach in 2 universities. I teach at the Royal Holloway University of London, where I teach in the MSc program, MSc Global Health. So this is an MSc program that is jointly co-delivered between the Royal Holloway University of London and the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew. I remained as a visiting lecturer at the University of Surrey. So I was at the University of Surrey in Guildford before joining the Royal Botanic Gardens. And this is where I actually did my PhD. And after I completed, I stayed on climbing the ranks to be able to lecture at the university. And therefore I stayed on, and I'm actually the lecturer for spectroscopic analysis of organic compounds, which we had touched earlier in this university. I'm also a not sort of full-time, but a tenure professor at Northeastern University in Nigeria. So I deliver lectures for them, either virtually or sometimes can go. I also supervise, now that's the word you had asked, therefore supervision of PhD or MSc students. Now that's where I do a lot of heavy work. So I'm a supervisory professor at Tshwane University of Technology in South Africa. And this has given me an opportunity to take some Kenyans to pursue their PhDs in South Africa. In fact, as we speak, we have got a gentleman leaving Kenya this month. He is from Sotik. He was a lecturer, or he's a lecturer at Kabianga University. His name is Taita Towet. So he's going to Tshwane University of Technology, where I'm going to be co-supervising him on a fully funded scholarship. And we have had a number of other Kenyans registered there that have completed, or some are ongoing. Upwards into Kenya, I co-supervise students at Egerton University. That's my home university. I do a lot of things at Egerton, including doing several projects with them. So I've got several registered PhD and MSc students at Egerton. I recently had a few graduating from University of Nairobi. So I haven't onboarded a student from University of Nairobi yet. And then into Nigeria. So I have very many PhD students and MSc students registered in several universities in Nigeria, including my, if I may say, home university, because I'm a full-time tenure professor at Northeastern University. I also co-supervise students at the University of Douala in Cameroon, where I have a number of them, several. And then into Asia, where I have a student at Maidol University in Thailand. And then back into my adopted home of the UK. So I've got students registered at the University of Surrey and students registered at Kingston University, London.
Wow. Dr. Langat, 2 questions. Number 1, do you sleep? Like, you have so much responsibility. before you answer that question of do you get time to even sleep, I want you, for the Kenyan, many Kenyan students, bright as you know, they some of them don't know where to get these scholarships or these opportunities, and actually that is the reason why I started this channel, to share these stories, and so that like our students can see all these possible ways of getting these opportunities and taking advantage of them. So before you tell us whether you sleep at all, let students know, like the Kenyan students particularly, if they find your research area interesting or they want to research in what you are doing, how should they get in touch, or how should they get these opportunities, for instance, even to go to South you mentioned?
Whoever wants to study, to take up higher education, there are several opportunities. I always say chances favor the prepared mind. So which means the person who is prepared to take up that opportunity will have a high opportunity of getting the opportunity. Will have a high chance to get the opportunity. In my own area, those who are interested to probably follow up with me to see whether I might have funded opportunities or not directly, or even with some of my collaborators. I'm very present on social media and also on Google. So I think if they can just type those names there, if perhaps even including the titles, they will probably be able to find my email address, including a link to the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew, where they can read about my project, my current projects, and my research aspirations. We can also provide, and as a tagline to this recording, my email address, and anybody can email me, and we can be able to take up that discussion. So I do sleep. Yes, I sleep properly. I get enough sleep, more than 6, 7, 8 hours every day. I think the key to be able to deliver a lot is really planning. I am at Kew. I do what I do, teaching online, supervising, having meetings left, right, and center. And I'm an entrepreneur as well. I run businesses. I'm a farmer back in Kenya. So I spend a lot of my time watching animals. And people will ask how. Nowadays, video farming is really a reality. We used to be told, we were told that telephone farming is difficult. But now we have the video, so I'm a video farmer. But I come to Kenya a lot also. Therefore, I get an opportunity to visit the farm. I don't do big farming, but I'm just a small dairy farmer with a herd of about 20 pedigree animals. And I also watch. My wife runs a factory also back in Kenya. She produces specialized detergents, and she does exactly the same as myself. So she does video, production. So it's possible. It's possible to do a lot when you plan yourself.
Planning. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I'm amazed. It's a lot you're doing, so you keep doing that. You are mentoring us, and we are inspired by your work. So you keep it up. Now, I want us to go briefly to Surrey. And of importance, I would want to know, how did you find yourself in the UK? So tell us what you studied during your PhD.
Fortunately, you were also a graduate student in the UK. So I'm sure the journey you went through would probably not be too different to mine. So I was enrolled to do PhD at the University of Surrey, which is in a town called Guildford, which is a commuter town between London and Portsmouth. It's 30 minutes into London Waterloo from Guildford, so that university is here. The way I ended up at the University of Surrey is very, very interesting, in the sense that I did my master's in Egerton University, and I did my project at the Pyrethrum Processing Company of Kenya. At the time, it was called Pyrethrum Board of Kenya. So I did my master's project in the institution, in the company, rather than in the university. And I went to Pyrathram Board of Kenya myself to seek for a project. And I was fortunately given several projects to choose from. Therefore, I also had the luxury to choose who my supervisor is. And as soon as I had settled on a project at the Pyrathram Board of Kenya, I went back to Egerton University to auction my project to the best lecturer, and also a lecturer who would probably give me more opportunities beyond just the supervision. So I spoke to other MSc students who are more advanced than myself and the PhD student to find out exactly who would have been my best supervisor. And everybody told me to pick a certain professor. He's now deceased. He passed on. He's called the late Professor Peter Cheplogo, who is widely celebrated in the Kenyan scientific setup. He had just arrived from South Africa, and when I approached him to be my MSc supervisor, he agreed, and he said I would be his first MSc student. So he had not supervised MSc students at all. So at the time I felt, oh, perhaps maybe it is going to be like, he doesn't have the experience to supervise me. So I was like, wow, it might be a challenge. But everybody else was telling me that he was very good. He had networks, and that I might have good post MSc life. So he accepted, and we both traveled the journey of the MSc program. So we had to initiate an MOU between Pyrathram Board of Kenya and Egerton University because there was no MOU. So that took a few months before it was signed. And even before it was signed, they agreed that I can go into Pyrathram Board of Kenya to do my research. And within a short period of time, I had enough data to write my thesis. And in the process of writing my thesis, I was employed on a full-time basis at the Pyrathram Board of Kenya as the chief formulation manager. That is to formulate pesticides, which are used to kill, let's say, pests, crop pests or household pests, among other things. And there are several products that we were able to design during my time at the Pyrathram Board of Kenya. So I was that fortunate, completed the project, got employed on a decent salary as a young man. But then Peter then requested that he would like to recommend me for a PhD opportunity outside Kenya. So he wanted to recommend me for a PhD opportunity at University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, where he had completed his PhD. I was slightly hesitant because I always had a vision to probably do my PhD in America, Germany, or UK, or Australia, or maybe Canada. I didn't think that I would go to South Africa for a PhD. So I was slightly hesitant, but I accepted, and he gave my recommendation to his supervisor, who was a lady called Professor Dalcy Mulholland, who was based at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. And within a short period of time, she accepted that she would supervise me and she would get me a fully funded scholarship to go to University of KwaZulu-Natal. So I had that in my mind, but I wasn't satisfied because I wanted to be in the UK, Germany, or elsewhere. And I kept looking for opportunities. So, for example, I got an admission at the Bristol University here in the UK, and Rutgers University in America, amongst others. But as I was going through the process of getting my MSc, because it can be very daunting in Kenya, the same professor came back saying that she had now felt that time in South Africa, because she's a Scot lady. So she said she had enough time in South Africa and she wanted to come to the UK. Yes, she was born in South Africa, but her parents were British. So she felt she wanted to come. And she asked whether I would accept an opportunity that she had been given, that she was being given a PhD studentship for her first PhD student at the University of Surrey. So she asked me whether I would be happy, and if I was, then I can join her. And she felt that if I didn't want to join her, she would transfer me to somebody else in University of KwaZulu-Natal. For me, that was music to my ears, because I always wanted to come to the UK. So I accepted to to accompany her to the University of Surrey. So she then, we then had a discussion and agreed that it was good for me to have a pre-PhD fellowship, which is something unheard of, where I could go and spend some time in a lab in South Africa before I joined her in the UK. So in August of 2005, I went to South Africa for a pre-PhD fellowship, something that not many people tend to get. So it's really a fellowship. So I got my first fellowship before I got my PhD.
Wow.
Went there for 6 months and yes, studied a lot of the techniques that I needed and interacted with very experienced PhD students in our group. Therefore, I would use the opportunity to pick all the techniques and knowledge and experiences that I needed, because at the University of Surrey, I would be our only PhD student. So it would mean that I would be the first one in the lab. So that gave me a very good opportunity. And in 2006, I came to University of Surrey to pursue PhD in chemistry with an inclination towards organic chemistry, and in particular what we call natural products chemistry. That's the study of chemistry of plants. Because she was an expert in the area. She had supervised, and she is really a lady that should be celebrated, because probably I was a 20th or 25th Kenyan PhD student. So she always took Kenyan PhD students, and she carried on doing that and even supervised my wife as well. So my wife got a PhD through her supervision as well.
Okay.
So that's how I ended up at the University of Surrey.
All right, that is very interesting. But I'm curious, before Egypt, where did you study for your high school?
I'm a commoner, if that's the right terminology to use. By the way, I went to Olengurwani DB Primary School, and at the time it was in Tarmac.
Yeah.
It was crazy it was really a highland, if I may call it. It was very difficult to come out of Olengurwani. It was raining a lot. The roads were impassable. So so I was one of those few Kenyans at the time, or few people from Olengurwani at the time, to study outside Olengurwani, because it was landlocked, if I may call it. So, but I went to Litein High School.
Okay.
In Kericho.
All right. I'm smiling because Olengurwani is my home.
Yes, I know. I follow you, so I know where you come from. I know your village. Yeah.
Good to see Olengurwani somewhere in the map. Yeah, but so Langat, just because of time, I'm just curious to know. So Olengurwani DB to Litein Boys High. At that time when you were finishing at Litein, I think we finished high school around 17, 18 years. What would you, and you've traveled like an incredible journey of grit and ambition to where you were at Royal Botanic Garden in the UK. What is one lesson you would tell 17-year-old, 18-year-old Langat fresh from Litein High?
Well, we all don't get to do what we desire to do, or we all don't even get the results that we all desire to get. We all don't end up in places that we would like to be. So that is the reality of life. It's fate. But the most important thing to do is to be, first of all, very disciplined and very arrogant to a particular vision. While growing up and being at Litein High School, we were quite a number of boys. Probably when I joined high school, we were 130 boys. That was in 1992. So for someone to put a context into that. And therefore, in high school, you have all characters. You have people from different places. Litein High School would admit, yes, the bulk from the local home districts, but you still get ourselves. I was from Nakuru. You still get people from Kisii, Nyamira, even as far as Baringo and other places, because at the time it was what is called a provincial school. So it meant that they needed to admit students from the province, the Rift Valley province, so even Turkana, even Narok, even Kajiado. So we had all manner of characters. So the biggest thing there is to check that the influence you get is the right influence, the influence that is going to take you forward rather than an influence that is retrogressive. So it meant that even choosing the friends, the people you want to hang out with, are the people whom you have a similar vision. So we had a group of us who had a desire to join universities, because when we joined Form 1, Litein High School would only send 1 or 2 or 3 students to university up until our year. That was in 1995. It even appeared in the newspaper. But I believe because most of us had the vision to join university. Some people had written on their chairs that chuo kikuu ni lazima kama ibada. So they had the slogans to drive them towards that. So yes, so I did well, passed, and then got admitted, and we had to wait even longer before we joined university. So we were waiting for about 2 years. So it meant we had to make ourselves busy. I used to run a wholesale, sell sugar as I waited to join university. But I think through all these years, what was important was to be very disciplined, to have a clear focus and a destination that one wants to travel to. So while in high school or university, I always had an ambition to be a global leader in something. Therefore, that was my focus. And to be a global leader, I knew I would have to probably be able to do most things outside Kenya. And by the way, I was visiting research fellow at the North Carolina State University. So I've spent time at Kannapolis, also in America. And I talk around the world. Yeah, so I talk in a year, probably spend a combined 2 months or so traveling and talking in different places. So as an example, last year I was in South Africa twice, and then in Helsinki and in Kenya. Yeah, so I even sometimes decline to be in these conferences to talk. But yeah, I get pushed. So that was always my ambition to influence things around the world. So at least I had a vision, and I wanted something to help me to be very arrogant, to deliver it. And I felt that being disciplined, being inquisitive, and looking for mentors. Yeah, I grew up having my own mentors, people I was looking up to, speaking to them. Back in Olangurwani, I've got very many successful persons that I would hang out with. I was very young, but I was spending time with guys in the university when I had just finished high school, and they would tell me about the experiences in the university, and I was already looking forward to the university. And once I was in the university, also the first year, one of my best friends was actually a non-Kalenjin. He works for the National Institute of Health in America. So also was to identify somebody with a similar vision, so that you can always motivate yourself, push yourself. I think many people have watched Messi and Ronaldo. We talk of them being the 2 best footballers. But because each of them was using the other one as a benchmark and pushing, so it meant that our ambition at the university was to also get the best results, and therefore you always want to better the other guy. We would probably have discussion groups. We would ask ourselves how they understand some things that we felt they were complex to understand and they could explain. So that's the drive. So yeah, so a few things here and there that then becomes the pillars that leads one to the destination they want.
Okay, amazing. Discipline and keeping good company. Thank you. I think because we are operating on a tight schedule, we'll just pause there. But thank you so much, Langat, for coming. And I will put your email and your maybe LinkedIn link on my description box, so that any student who is interested in your research area can get in touch.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And yes, go ahead and give them my contacts, and I will find time to respond to them. Thank you.